Dark psychology is the study of the human mind when it is used for selfish, harmful, or deceptive purposes. It explores the hidden motives behind manipulation, control, and emotional influence. Every person at some point uses psychological power, but dark psychology focuses on those who use it intentionally to dominate others. In simple terms, it is the dark side of human behavior, the ability to twist thoughts, create false emotions, and make someone act against their own will. While the word dark sounds evil, not everyone who understands these concepts is bad. In fact, knowing dark psychology can protect you from being a victim of it. Imagine someone who always gets what they want, not through kindness, but by playing with others' emotions. They might use guilt to make you say yes, or fear to make you stay silent. That is dark psychology in action, invisible but powerful. The roots of dark psychology go back to the early studies of human behavior. Psychologists discovered that people are not always logical. Most decisions are driven by emotions and subconscious desires, and those who understand these hidden triggers can influence anyone easily. For example, when someone says, "You don't care about me," after you simply disagree, they are not arguing with logic. They are using emotional pressure to make you feel guilty. This simple act is manipulation, and it works because humans crave acceptance and avoid conflict. Dark psychology studies these emotional weaknesses, fear, guilt, shame, love, and desire, and how they can be controlled. It's like holding the remote to another person's emotions. You press one button and their behavior changes. However, not all manipulation is evil. Parents, teachers, and leaders use persuasion to guide others for good reasons. The line between influence and manipulation is intention. When someone uses it to help, it's leadership. When someone uses it to control, it becomes dark psychology. The truth is, manipulators don't look dangerous. They often appear charming, confident, and kind. But behind their calm smile hides a deep understanding of how your mind reacts. They know when to flatter you, when to create silence, and when to use words that make you doubt yourself. Understanding dark psychology means seeing through these invisible games. It's about learning how people use emotional triggers to control situations. And once you know how it works, you become mentally stronger, calmer, and harder to deceive. In this chapter, we'll explore the mindset of manipulators, what drives them, and how they identify their targets. Because to defend yourself, you must first understand the enemy, not through hate, but through awareness. To understand dark psychology deeply, we must first understand why people manipulate. Not all manipulators are born evil. Many start out feeling powerless. They discover, often by accident, that controlling others gives them strength, confidence, or emotional security. With time, this becomes their habit, a way to survive, to win, or to protect their fragile ego. In psychology, manipulation begins with one belief. I can't get what I want honestly. This belief grows in people who fear rejection or failure. So instead of asking directly, they twist the situation until others give them what they want. For example, a friend who says, "It's fine. I guess you don't care about me," when you simply couldn't help them. That's emotional manipulation. They use guilt to control your feelings, so You do what they want, not because you agree, but because you want peace. This is the essence of dark psychology, the art of control. Through emotion, manipulators use three main tools. 1. Fear to make you obey. 2. Guilt to make you regret. 3. Love to make you stay. These emotions, when used genuinely, build trust, but when used strategically, they become invisible chains. One common technique is gaslighting, making someone question their own memory or sanity. For instance, if you say, "You said this yesterday," and the manipulator replies, "No, that never happened," repeatedly, you start doubting yourself. Slowly, you lose confidence in your own reality, and they gain total control. Another powerful method is love bombing, giving extreme attention, compliments, or affection to make you emotionally attached. Once they know you are emotionally invested, they begin to withdraw it, making you crave their approval again. You start chasing their validation, unaware that the relationship has already become one-sided. Manipulators also know how to use silence as a weapon. When they suddenly stop responding, your mind fills the gap with anxiety. You begin to question yourself. Did I do something wrong? And when they finally speak again, you feel relief, making you even more vulnerable to control. Every manipulator understands one basic rule. The person who controls emotions controls the situation. That's why dark psychology is not only about reading others, it's about controlling reactions. If they can make you angry, scared, or desperate, they win. But awareness breaks this cycle. Once you start recognizing emotional manipulation, it loses its power. You stop reacting automatically and start observing. You begin to notice patterns, repeated guilt trips, silent treatments, fake kindness after arguments, and slowly you take back control. The first step toward protecting yourself is knowledge. When you can name the tactic, you can stop it, because manipulators work best in your confusion, and once the light of awareness shines, their shadows disappear. This is the foundation of dark psychology, understanding the human mind so well that you can't be controlled by it anymore. Now that we understand how manipulation works, let's explore how manipulators choose their targets. It may surprise you, but they don't always pick weak people. In fact, manipulators often go after kind, helpful, and emotionally intelligent individuals because such people care deeply. A manipulator studies others quietly. They observe who apologizes first, who avoids conflict, who smiles, even when hurt. These are signs of empathy. But in the wrong hands, empathy becomes an entry point. They test boundaries early. For example, they might say something slightly disrespectful just to see how you react. If you laugh it off or stay silent, they know you value peace over confrontation. That one moment gives them a silent message. You can be pushed. Slowly, they begin to reshape your thoughts. They plant doubts like seeds. Maybe you're too sensitive. You're overthinking again. I was just joking. Why are you so serious? Every sentence chips away at your confidence. You begin to question your emotions, thinking that maybe you are wrong. And that's exactly how control begins. Not through force, but through confusion. Manipulators also target people who crave approval. They notice who always says yes, who explains too much, or who needs appreciation to feel valued. For them, these are open doors to the mind. Once they find your emotional need, they use it, first to make you happy, then to make you dependent. It's like fishing. They throw the bait of attention, compliments, or help. And once you take it, they slowly pull the string tighter. Soon, you find yourself adjusting your behavior just to keep them pleased. But remember, manipulators never reveal themselves early. They wear masks. At first, they appear generous, patient, even charming. They listen carefully, not to understand, but to collect information. Your fears, your dreams, your weaknesses. Later, they use those same details to influence you. You might notice they often mirror your personality. If you're quiet, they act calm. If you're energetic, they act lively. This is called mirroring, a tactic to build quick trust. You start thinking, wow, they're just like me. But in truth, they're just reflecting you, until you lower your guard. Over time, manipulators test loyalty in subtle ways. They create small dramas to see how much you'll tolerate. They may pretend to be hurt or distant just to measure your emotional response. And once they know how far you'll go to fix things, they use that control as power. The irony is, people who manipulate deeply fear losing control themselves. Their actions come from insecurity, not strength. But that insecurity turns dangerous when it's mixed with intelligence and charm. Recognizing these signs early can save you from months or even years of emotional confusion. And the key is to observe, not react. When someone constantly twists facts, shifts blame, or uses guilt, step back mentally. Ask yourself, is this person trying to make me feel wrong for having boundaries? If the answer is yes, that's your warning signal. In the next audio, we'll go even deeper into the mindset of manipulators themselves. We'll uncover how they justify their actions and why they see others as tools rather than people. Inside the mind of the manipulator. To truly understand dark psychology, we must step inside the mind of a manipulator. This is not easy, because manipulators do not think like normal people. Their thoughts are not guided by empathy or fairness. They see human emotions not as something to share, but as something to use. Most manipulators grow up believing that control equals safety. They may have experienced betrayal, rejection, or humiliation early in life. Instead of healing, they learn to protect themselves by controlling everything around them, especially people. To them, emotions are tools, and trust is just a strategy. When a manipulator meets someone new, they don't see a person. They see a puzzle. They start to observe quietly. What makes you happy? What makes you insecure? What do you fear losing? These details become their map to your emotions. Their main goal is not love, not friendship. It's dominance without being obvious. They want to feel powerful, but they also want to appear innocent. That's why most manipulators act humble or caring at first. They play the role of a listener, a comforter, or even a victim. This is called emotional camouflage. They hide their real intent behind kindness. Once you trust them, they slowly shift the balance of control. They start giving less, demanding more, and making you question your worth when you refuse. A manipulator's brain often works on a reward system. Every time they successfully control someone, they feel a rush of satisfaction, almost like winning a game. It reinforces their belief that manipulation is smarter than honesty. But here's the secret. Manipulators often live with inner emptiness. They depend on others emotionally even though they act independent. They can't feel stable unless they're in control of someone. Without someone to influence, they feel invisible. That's why they target people who give them energy, kind hearts, emotional souls, people who listen deeply. To them, your kindness becomes fuel. Manipulators are also masters of rewriting history. If a conflict happens, they'll twist facts until you start apologizing for things you never did. They'll say things like, "You misunderstood me. You always overreact. You made me do this." Each line removes their responsibility and places it on you. That's how they stay guilt-free, by transferring blame. Interestingly, not all manipulators are conscious of what they do. Some have practiced it for so long that it has become natural behavior. They don't even realize they're manipulating. It's just how they survive. But whether intentional or not, the result is the same. Emotional damage, confusion, and loss of self-trust for their victims. Understanding their mindset doesn't mean forgiving them. It means seeing the pattern clearly so you can step out of it. When you understand how their mind works, you stop taking their actions personally. You realize their control has nothing to do with your weakness. It's their fear of losing power. That realization alone begins to free you. The impact of dark psychology on everyday life. Dark psychology doesn't live only in extreme cases. It exists quietly in everyday life, in families, friendships, relationships, and workplaces. It hides behind small lies, silent treatments, and emotional games that seem normal until they repeat. At home, manipulation can appear as guilt disguised as love. A parent might say, "After all I've done for you, you can't even do this small thing?" The sentence sounds emotional, but its purpose is control. It makes the child act from guilt, not love. This pattern, if repeated, creates adults who struggle to say no, because deep inside, they fear disappointing others. In relationships, dark psychology wears a romantic mask. It begins with affection and attention, constant calls, messages, and compliments. But soon, those same gestures turn into tools of control. One partner starts deciding what's right, what's wrong, who you should talk to, how you should feel. And when you resist, they say, "You're ungrateful. I only care about you." That's not love. That's emotional control. At work, manipulation often hides behind ambition. A colleague might pretend to support you while secretly taking credit for your work. They might use flattery to lower your guard or gossip to create confusion. They know how to play both sides, to look good in front of the boss and make others seem less capable. Even in social media, we face dark psychology every day. Algorithms and influencers use emotional triggers, fear of missing out, validation, comparison, to keep us engaged. We scroll, not because we want to, but because the system has learned how to hold our attention. The truth is, manipulation works only when awareness is absent. When you start seeing emotional patterns clearly, you step outside the game. You stop reacting and start responding. You realize that you don't need to explain your worth to anyone who uses guilt or fear to control you. Recognizing dark psychology in daily life is like learning a new language. At first, you'll notice only a few words. Then suddenly, you'll see full sentences everywhere. You'll understand that some people don't want truth. They want control. And you'll begin to value peace over pleasing others. Knowledge of dark psychology gives you two gifts. One, protection, because you can now see manipulation before it reaches your heart. Two, power, because awareness itself is strength. When you combine calm observation with emotional boundaries, no manipulator can trap you. They may still try, but their tactics will bounce off your awareness like arrows hitting a shield. And that is the true purpose of understanding dark psychology, not to control others, but to set yourself free.